TruthSeekah and/or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and/or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark savage!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah podcast. Excited, delighted to be with you guys again. As always, for another talk in all things spiritual. We cover it all. It's going to be good. Trust me. Buckle up. We're going to get deep. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's hanging out with us live and all the live streaming apps, Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, YouTube, wherever you are, man. Shout out to you. Let us know in the comments where you're listening from. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who is supporting my work via Patreon. This is a listener-supported, listener-funded show, and you guys are co-creating with me to bring this vision to the table. And so your support means the world. And give a shout out to some of the latest patrons within the last week or so. Shout out to Jamie Schmitz. Thank you for coming on. Mike Cobb, Donald Jones, and George or Jorge. I'm not sure. Let me know. Is it Jorge or is it George? But shout out to you guys for coming on, believing in the work, and partnering with the vision. It means the world to me. Couldn't do it without you. If you'd like to support, go to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music, 200 plus songs, all the new stuff that I'm putting up, as well as our Thursday night School of the Mystics, which is the community aspect to what we're building, behind the scenes, hangout, one-on-one sessions, all that really cool stuff. Patreon.com/TruthSeekah. Just, I guess, a quick update what we got going on. Some dates coming up. May the 1st, we're going to be doing our retreat again here in Mobile, Alabama. For those of you who would like to spend the weekend in the woods, doing breath work, Kundalini yoga, hiking, traveling, and just getting up with us in person. It's been amazing. I think that we've done 4, I think, so far, and each one I feel like it's getting better and better, and I'm learning what works and adding things to what we're doing, and it's been beautiful. So for those of you who are interested in the retreats that we have going on, go to TruthSeekah.com and check out the info there. Also, we have the 8-week program, The Path of the Healer, which we're doing the second wave of that. That's available for people who want to sign up as well at TruthSeekah.com. 8 weeks training in spiritual and intuitive healing, how to start a podcast, doing all the deep inner spiritual work, but also doing the practical stuff too. I don't think that you can have one without the other. So everything that I do to function in my ministry online and be able to reach the masses, I'm training people and equipping them in the same thing. So if you're interested in that, you feel called to like that online discipleship, start your own online community, and you want somebody to hold your hand through the process, definitely check out The Path of the Healer. So that's at TruthSeekah.com. And so today's guest, I want to go ahead and mention him as well. This is somebody who is a dear friend of mine. when it comes to support, mentioning the Path of the Healer. He went through that program. He was actually the first person to sign up. Almost anything that I put out, this brother supports hands down with flags, and he has been a great support and believing in the vision, encouraging me along the way, and he's been a friend as well. So he's been a patron for years now, I think probably 2 years or so. And we've just grown a beautiful relationship over those 2 years as I've got to know him. And so I know that his story is going to touch a lot of people. His story is inspiring and it needs to be told. And I think it's going to help a lot of people. So again, thank you for coming on the podcast. My friend Dave Voelker. Dave, welcome to the show, bro. How are you?
Yeah, most definitely. I'm well, man. Thanks. Yeah, it's a treat to be able to support your work and, man, the community that you facilitate. Blessed to be a part of, and yeah, it's a treat to be a part of what you do and what you create, bro.
Yeah, I think it's not so much about me, but about the atmosphere and maybe what I stand for, and just kind of give that place for other people who have similar interests to have a camaraderie. Even you know what I'm saying? I get that a lot.
Yeah, definitely. In my journey, right, as I'm experiencing my spiritual awakening or whatever, I just Googled TruthSeekahs, right? That's what I Googled, and then your profile comes up, and then I click on your music, and I'm like, wow, man, that's awesome. The things that you rap about and the things that you talk about too on your podcast. So definitely related to. I feel like definitely the Spirit brought us together, and definitely reaping the benefits of that. So appreciate you, bro.
For sure. Thank you. Your story, man, we're going to be talking about mental health. You're unashamed. You're open. You're unashamed about some things that a lot of people are ashamed of. It brings us shame to talk about psychosis, delusions. But I think that we have to have that conversation when we're talking about spirituality in the New Age community. But don't stop there. Not just the New Age. The Christian church, the Christian community as well feel like they are exempt from that conversation, but I've brushed a lot of shoulders over the years. I've met a lot of people who I guess suffer from mental illness because they're not a victor over it. And so I think your story is how you've maybe suffered, and now you're a victor where you was a victim, and you've used spirituality to help you feel okay in your own body, not be at war with your own mind, and all of this stuff. So I'm encouraged to dive deep into this with you tonight, man, because I know that you're an open book and you love to talk about this stuff.
All right, sounds good. Yeah.
Great. So I mean, where do we start, man? Where do you want to start? You know what I'm saying? Your background of people can kind of know where you're coming from, at least where you started off with your spirituality, spiritual awakening. We could maybe start there.
Well, a real quick intro. I do want to start in the present because I feel like that's a big part of my mental health and well-being is being in the present. So I'll start off in the present. I'm 46 years old. I have a job. I'm a sheet metal worker. I'm married. I've been married since 2002. I've got a 14-year-old son. I've got a 10-year-old daughter who's turning 11 here on a third. And from a previous relationship, I've got a 29-year-old daughter. And the statistics, I don't know if you are aware of the statistics or your listeners are aware of the statistics. But for individuals with bipolar disorder, that's the diagnosis that I carry. The divorce rate is 90%. So I am really committed to mental health and well-being. I am committed to staying as present as I can to the people around me that I can love and maintain relationships. So that's where I am now, and very thankful to be there. Where my story starts out with carrying a psychosis diagnosis is when I joined the Marine Corps. Now, the setting when I joined the Marine Corps, I'll have to go back. So I'm 46. My first daughter, she's 29 now. But when she was born with some pretty complicated and complex challenges. So her mom and I were 17 when she was born. She had a cyst in her cerebellum cleft lip, cleft palate. She had basically a rare chromosome imbalance. So as I was trying to make sense out of that, being a new dad at 17, and I'll rewind a little bit. I was brought up in the church. My parents brought me to church every Sunday. We went to a Lutheran church, so I did have an awareness of God. I went through confirmation. I had my own experience religiously growing up, but trying to make sense of having a child with special needs was complex in my mind as a 17-year-old. So digesting that and saying, okay, well, what's going on? Is God punishing me because I had premarital sex? So all these concepts I was trying to make sense out of, and some things happened. My dad, he had his challenges with alcoholism. So I saw that growing up. I saw some things take place in my family that were traumatic for me, and all the while going to a church setting. So my mind was trying to make sense out of, okay, how can these things happen if we're trying to be good people going to church and all this stuff, right? So this was taking place. So my daughter, 2 years old, my dad, thankfully, he had stopped drinking and being abusive, and we had a real good relationship when I was 19, and then he passed away. So he was a big part of like trying to help out with my first daughter. Her name's Miranda, and it was great to just be able to see him open up and stuff like that. But trying to make sense out of like, okay, now me and my dad are cool. He's reaching out to me. We're talking, we're connecting, and then all of a sudden he dies. And I should bring up too that her mom and I were trying to make things work on and off. And in one of the off seasons, I was dating this girl, and I told the girl, like, I feel like my he's going to die soon. And a week later, he died. So that was weird, right? I had this kind of premonition, and then he died. And then I'm thinking, I'm trying to make sense out of it all. Like, am I responsible partially for him, dying? Like, I didn't understand some of this stuff that was happening in me internally as I'm trying to make sense out of God and some of these bigger questions. So in an effort to after a year's gone by, he's passed away, and I'm thinking about my life. I'm like, all right, I got to get my stuff together. I try and make a final push with the mom. I'm learning, like, we're trying to balance Miranda's care between two households. It's tough. Like, what if I said, okay, let's get married. I'll go into the Marine Corps. We'll have a fresh start. Hey, let's make a good push for our family. So that's what I did. I asked her to marry me. We had this wedding that was scheduled shortly after I was to graduate boot camp. Now being in boot camp, it's a 3-month boot camp, and here I am. I'm trying to do my best. So I was a squad leader, and so I was on point to graduate with honors and a pay grade. And 2.5 months in, all of a sudden, like, I start seeing things symbolically, and I start talking in like symbolic terms, and things are starting to like symbolically merge together. And I don't know what's going on at that point. It's like then my superiors are like, oh yeah, we need to get him a psych eval, just to see what's going on with him. So.
And what?
So
how old was you when this happened?
I was 20. Yeah, 20. So that was my first experience with the psychosis part of the mania, which is attached to the diagnosis that I eventually picked up was bipolar 1. And that happens to be the same diagnosis that Kanye West has. And a lot of people, you might see on the street that are confused. It's just what we experience is is complex, and it's hard to make sense out of it, especially the person going through it. So as I'm experiencing this symbolic view of life as it relates to the Marine Corps, I'm looking at all the symbolism that they're teaching us and how it's meshed together. And they give me these first generation heavy antipsychotic medicine, Thorazine and Haldol. And my first diagnosis in the Marines then was schizophreniform. And it had to do with psychosis. So what they tried to do is just give me these heavy, like, brain stopping medications that really gummed up my thinking. And I was in the hospital for almost 3 weeks, and then I got a medical discharge, which was a huge letdown, right? Because I was trying to do this good thing for my family, trying to do a good thing for my country too, and I bought in full on, like, yeah, I want to do a good thing here. So when I got my medical discharge, that was a huge blow. They kicked. Well, first they asked me if I had gone to seen any psychiatrists before that, and I said, well, my dad had died, and I was kind of in a depressive rut. So I went out and saw, tried to get some help to get me out of the rut. And because I had told them that I sought psychiatric care before I went into the Marine Corps, they discharged me with no strings attached, like, kind of like you're on your own. Just take your meds and, do your best with the county. So that's what I was left with. And, getting back to my life, I just wasn't the same. I didn't have my personality. My personality was robbed. My confidence as a human being was shot. And I could tell, like, I wasn't able to be a leader for, my daughter's mom. And we just said, yeah, the best thing is, like, we'll go on break, or it's not working out. That's kind of what we decided. And so doing my best, trying to take these meds. My friends are picking me up. They're trying to take me out again and, like, have a good time. And it's like, it's messed up, right? Because I got to, I'm supposed to be taking these meds. I had this experience I didn't know. And so finally, it was New Year's Eve, and I was walking in my neighborhood. There was this party, and there were lines on the table, and I'm like, hey, whatever, line me up. So I did some lines of crank, and at that time it was it was a type of crank where you did a line, you didn't need to eat, and you were up for a very long time. And so when I did that, there was something in my brain that happened. I felt like I was back, and whatever was in these drugs, I was like, okay, that makes sense. These other drugs don't make sense, because I feel like at least I can be engaged in my surroundings fully. So that started everyday drug use for, I would say, 6 months. But everyday drug use using crank, you can wither away real fast.
Somebody in chat wants to know, what's crank? Is it crystal meth, like an early form of crystal meth?
It's an early form of crystal meth, but from what I understand now, crystal meth, if you take it now, you can still eat. And but this was, I guess you could say, biker crank. Like
I remember it being big in the 90s.
Yeah. So this was so 95 I got discharged, and so this was 96. Okay. So I got into it was New Year's Eve, so it was 96.
Would they call that speed?
Speed, yeah.
Speed,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everyday drug use withered away. I was really sucked up, and I checked myself into a rehab. But before that, I met a guy, and he was a Christian, right? I met a guy I went to high school with, and he was a Christian. and he started talking about his relationship with Jesus. And I was like, okay, cool, awesome. But I had some questions, because I had turned on the Bible radio, and I felt like everybody was talking about me. Like, to me, it freaked me out because here you have these people, these pastors, and I was like, I did try and tell my story to my local pastor because I was trying to make sense out of the whole thing, with my daughter. And then I was thinking, are these people talking about me behind my back? Because it seemed like their sermons related to my life experience. And I was kind of creeped out. I was like, I think they're talking about me behind my back. I'm not going to talk about my situation anymore. So I talked about this with my friend, and he tried to tell me, well, that's the Holy Spirit. He's trying to engage with you in all the questions that you have. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. So my friends at the time, they knew I had a drug problem, and they encouraged me to check myself into a rehab. So at the time, there was a teen challenge program, and that's like a Christian-centered a program. So I went and told them my story. I checked in. And I bought in, like hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, all right, this is my time. I'm going to figure out who I am in Christ. I'm going to get my stuff together. I'm going to get right. And, whatever personalities conflict or whatever, me and one of the counselors got into an argument, and I was like, I'm out. Peace. 11 days, I'm done. And I felt like, all right, the dude was being unreasonable, and it's like, I'm done. Well, it was cool because I had made some connections with the church, and I got back in the church. We started with the youth group, and so I was going to my friend's church, and he was helping out with the youth group. So I would go to these services, engaging in worship, feeling the presence of the Holy Spirit. Pretty cool stuff. Something happened. I was thinking about like, all right, maybe I want to contact Miranda's mom again. And one of the ladies in the church, she's like, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, I'm getting from Jesus that that's not a good idea for you. And then I started thinking, hey, I don't like that. Here I am, I'm signed up, like I'm buying into this relationship with Jesus. And somebody else is telling me about what I should be experiencing. And I'm like, I just ain't down with that, So in my room, I went to my room, and I had my candles going, and I just said, hey, if you're real, like, I want to experience you, not through somebody else, but I want to experience you through my experience with you. So, like, I feel the presence right now, but in that time, that was the first time when I full on felt like a big jolt of God's presence. And I was like, holy smokes, then I started thinking I was looking at my stereo system, and I was seeing God in my stereo system. Like, whatever the allegory was, I was seeing it. So everything became an allegory on how I was seeing God in whatever I was seeing.
Yeah.
So that was my.
Okay, just before I don't want to jump the gun here, but was that something positive, or is that a form of psychosis, do you think?
It was definitely something positive.
Yeah.
And it was a form of psychosis.
Because I've been there, and I'm probably still there.
So, this is something that I talk about with people. It's like, okay, all right, now I've gone to a sermon, and I've seen a pastor use an illustration on how he's illustrating a point on how God might work. Now, in my life experience, whatever I was seeing and experiencing through my eye gate was an allegory.
Yeah.
And to me, it was mind blowing. I felt like going back there, I felt like I could see like Christ would see, like everything, like Christ would use parables Well, in my situation, it was like I had the ability to use parables to experience God in that moment, but also convey God in that moment to the people around me. So I was buzzing. I mean, I felt the energy, I felt like alive, but the people around me didn't know what to do with that energy.
Yeah.
So there was one guy in particular, he carried the diagnosis of bipolar disorder. And he said, Dave, I think you're having a bipolar episode. So he talked me in, like I couldn't go to sleep either. Like I really had a lot of energy. So he talked me into getting a psych eval. And at this time, you know, like poems are coming through me. I'm not really a poetic person, but this creative side of me is starting to flow, which I'm not used to. But I'm thinking, hey, this is pretty cool stuff, you know. So I ended up in the hospital, right? I ended up in the hospital. They figured, you know, because he's having a psychosis, he could be a danger to others. He could be a danger to himself and a danger to others. So that would be a 5150. And so that's a lot of times, you know.
Oh, so that's what that
do.
means, 5150?
Yeah.
You're a danger to
Yeah.
yourself and possibly others.
Yeah.
Okay.
Danger to self.
That's a term that people brag about in hip hop, 5150, you know, but they brag about it, but it's like, I'm a danger to myself and others. That's not good.
Yeah. So, so I picked up that label, you know, and here I am in Christendom, you know, with my Christian friends, and I'm having this unexplainable experience, which you know, on the onset is positive, but I don't know how to slow down the energy. I don't know how to define the energy. Nobody is coming at me and saying, Dave, this is what you're experiencing. It's okay. It's going to be okay. It's none of that is happening. What's happening is somebody is saying you're sick. And so that's how I internalized my experience from that point. And I was pissed when you're in a locked facility and you're being scrutinized by professionals. And at that time, this was in 96. It's a lot better now, but in 96, you know, people were, you know, had kid gloves and kind of talking to you like a patient. So you don't feel respected in this setting. You don't feel like, you know, your ideas or views matter in these settings. And, you know, I was pissed, and I felt largely sold out by my new community. And, it was tough. It was tough to make sense out of. And, you know, for a time there, I was like, I tried to put the whole thing behind me. Like I didn't really talk about it. Like I was like, okay, this is
embarrassing. It's embarrassing, right?
It's embarrassing.
Or it was anyway, right?
Yeah. And then how am I supposed to relate this to my new Christian community? Like, oh, he's got a mental health condition, and like I'm trying my hardest, you know, to buy into what they're telling me about Jesus and how to live a Christian life. I'm trying my hardest. So, you know, I felt like here again, you know, I'm a failure. You know what? Gosh, you know, I'm not doing right. You know, like maybe God's punishing me. I don't know. Like all these ideas are floating around in my head. I'm trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
And you know, it's when I met my wife. My wife and I, we became friends. We were part of the same circle. She went to the same youth group. And so we were older than the youth. And by this time, you know, coming out, this group of friends kind of rallied behind me, and they were like, you know, we're here for you, Dave. And some of them came and visited me while I was in the hospital, which was really cool. So as I tried to make sense out of it, I was like, okay, I got an illness. These people are here for me. I'm thankful. That's how I internalized it afterwards. So
what did you do to, again, I don't know if I missed it, but what did you do to end up in the hospital? Was it something extreme for them to say that, you know, to have you committed? Like what happened? that
It
time?
was nothing really extreme. I didn't do anything.
It was just like the way you were talking. You were like weirding people out, and they kind
Yeah,
of went to speak to somebody. Yeah.
yeah, because everything I was saying, it was like it had an allegorical meaning to
Mm-hmm.
me, and I would try to explain things to them. And as I was explaining it to them, I would use an allegory. So it was like this huge world of symbolism that
Mm-hmm.
I got kind of lost in, you
Is
know?
now is that real? Is that is that reality a spiritual reality that is real? That was just like the floodgates were open to you, and here you are to be a baby Christian trying to articulate these deep mysteries that you're privy to people, and it just didn't work out. You didn't know how to turn it off and on, because we talk about that happening. This is like a spiritual awakening for you at the same time, and it kind of the lines are blurred. So is that part of spiritual awakening? Because a lot of what you're saying I've experienced and still experience with
Right.
our relationship with the creator. It's in our head. It's
Yeah.
levels of consciousness and how close we are, and how, you talk about trials and tribulations and allegories, and what does this mean to you, and reading and seeing yourself in the text,
Yeah.
all of that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. So that's only going on in our heads.
Right. So
So
for me, I do feel like it was reality. And I was having a deeply spiritual, meaningful experience that not a lot of people around me could relate to. The only person that could relate to me was taking medicine for bipolar disorder. So that's how he internalized his experience as well. And he must have gone through something very similar. Later on, I find out he's part of the Reformed theology. So then I'm
well,
thinking,
that's got to be
okay,
rough to be in
yeah,
Reformed theology and trying to make sense of that. You have to really just be into the mental disorder. There could be like no spirituality linked to the Reformed stuff, which is strange.
yeah. So they discounted a lot of the spiritual giftings and stuff
Yeah,
like that, and that's something that I gravitated toward as well. Deeper in my Christian walk, I started to really crave and come to appreciate the presence of the Holy Spirit as I'm worshiping.
for sure.
And so to me, it became like a drug for me, like
Yeah,
a
100%.
replacement drug for
Yep,
me.
me too.
Um, yeah, it's like I did have my
To
big spiritual
euphoria,
question. Yeah, definitely the euphoria, and that's something later on that I look at and I'm like, okay, well, to me, maybe that was a little bit of a replacement from the reality that I wanted to dodge and get away from. Like it felt so good, but I don't know if I knew how to bring that experience back and relate it to my real life. And I think that does come with a little bit of maturity, along down the lines, because you could talk about the highs and the lows of spirituality too, and just chasing the mountaintop experiences and not wanting to go back to reality,
yeah.
and that's its own
No,
problem.
I think that's why we're having this conversation, and why it's relevant for today for many reasons, for people who, um, are, may, be diagnosed bipolar, but they're, spiritual. And then again, maybe these are one and the same. And that's what I wanted to ask you. Like, what do you feel? Because people who are having a spiritual awakening or Kundalini awakening, I don't have to say, you can say Holy Spirit awakening, but are
Yeah,
having voices speak to them, who are, seeing signs and numbers, and the text is talking about them. And it's like the Truman Show. It really
yeah,
is.
exactly.
And it
Yeah, yeah,
can
yeah.
give birth to delusions and psychosis and mania, just like you said. And I'm real big on that, because the church likes to point fingers at Kundalini can open up doors that people can't close. Listen, the Holy Spirit can too. And I think and I have a study that maybe me and you can go in together on this, but like when you put your hand to the plow, you're not supposed to look back. Like when you open that door to this relationship with the Holy Spirit, if you look back, you're gonna go mad. So it's like and there's so many scriptures that talk about that. So it's not just a Kundalini, experience that's causing this? Because, I'm sure you believe like me, it's the same thing or very similar.
Yeah.
This ecstatic, euphoric experience with, the nature of life itself, God manifested through his presence, right? So
Right.
what about people who are having Kundalini awakenings and they're just like, I've talked about it. I'm trying to make sense of it on my podcast. I get crazy messages. That even blow me away. I try to handle it with grace if I can, but some of it blows my mind. I mean, we're talking past lives. We're talking I'm an alien from Krypton sent with a message. Like, we're talking far out stuff. I mean, I don't know if you're building up to some of the other deeper stuff that happened with you, but it can be really, really scary. The stuff you've been describing seems kind of hard, but did it get a lot darker for you or what with your spiritual awakening and going really deep and just doing some extreme stuff?
Okay. So as it progressed and as I became more open to the energy in and of itself, because it felt so good and my friends and family didn't know what to do with me, I felt like the best thing to do was remove myself from the setting because it was causing them so much pain. But as I went out on my own and opened myself up to these energies with no direction, then I got into some trouble. I got into some trouble with the law.
That's my story. Opening up to energies, unaware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, so here, the bipolar 1 diagnosis in the DSM-4, the diagnostic book. I think they're up to DSM-5 or 6 now. But part of the criteria for having a manic episode is you will have people that think that they are the second coming of Christ. You have people that they think that they are a king. You have people that think that they need to run for president. Yeah, Messiah type figures. So the way I internalize this now, I never like. I'm trying to do the right thing. You mentioned that. I am trying to do the right thing.
Can we interject? They feel like they are reincarnated as a god. I am Ra that has come back, or I am King David.
Yeah.
Same. You can just interject whatever you want, really. Yeah.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Because from what I'm experiencing, the more I try to understand what I'm experiencing in these psychoses, and as I learn about Kanye West, is like you might be engaging the full consciousness, like the I am presence of the creator. And to me, that's like mind blowing, right? So in the grandiosity of things, my mind is going, it's going very fast, and I'm learning about ways of like, okay, well, I've got this business plan, I've got this business plan, I've got this business plan. So there are all these creative ways on how I can enhance my life, get rich or whatever.
And I know why you listen to the podcast, because I talk about this stuff all the time. So, and somebody says Kanye West, just like Kanye has all these ideas as well. Genius,
Yeah. So, my heart goes out to him, because here we are, we're just human beings, and we're trying to understand the energies that we're connecting to. And then the people that want to help us in the mental health industry, they see us suffering and they want it to stop. And so they give us medicine to slow down our mind and bring us back to reality. Now, that's the way they are trained to help us thus far in the West. Thankfully, there are some progressive ideas in helping individuals out like myself. And ultimately, I go back to Kundalini awakening. It would have been a lot better and easier for me if I had a yogi or somebody who was gifted in engaging these energies that could kind of walk me through and say, hey, what you're experiencing is going to subside. And a lot of what I believe I was experiencing was working out some of the traumas that were locked up inside of me before I started my journey.
Yeah.
So, as I'm trying to make sense out of life, God, my existence, all these big ideas are coming up, and these things I'm working out in my head, like you know I mean, I come back to this idea that God is good, that people are good, that creation is good. I mean, these are foundational ideas that I have now that keep me hopeful and out of the ideas of wanting to commit suicide, because that goes along with the manic depressive diagnosis or bipolar disorder diagnosis.
I know you just kind of breeze through it, and don't if you have a change of heart, you don't want to talk about it. But can you talk about like where it got really bad, and when you ended up in the hospital, like what was the stuff that you did and called out in public and stuff like that? Like what some of the stuff that went not undiagnosed because you were diagnosed, but like not keeping yourself in check or having your spiritual regimen that you have now, where some of this led you to, like the most grandiose far out stuff that you've talked about, which I've had a friend who, thought he was Jesus Christ's second coming. And this guy went out and went and test drove a Porsche, a white Porsche. And and this joke was riding around the city with a sword, thinking that he was the second coming of Christ, riding the white horse of Revelation. He goes to the church and talks to the pastor and tells the pastor this: yes, I'm the second coming of Christ, and the people at the car dealership honored me and seen my anointing and gave me this car, which they didn't, and there's just this weird scenarios playing in his head. And, and everything ended up coming to a head after a while, a couple of times with this guy. And, he was supposed to be on medication and stuff like that. Some of the stuff that happened to you that was similar like that too.
Okay. So this psychosis is interesting, because a lot of times I'll go into the hospital and there'll be people in the hospital with very similar experiences. And sometimes I wonder, why aren't they documenting these experiences as they're happening? It's almost like the spiritual world is letting these things happen through individuals to convey, I feel like, a bigger message. So one of the things that did happen, I had a white Mustang convertible. It's a white horse, right? So white Mustang convertible. And I was in the city at the time, and I saw this chrome, like a flashing piece off a car that I'm like, oh, that's a sword. Here's
you kind of did the same thing that this guy did.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So part of what I was doing, I was engaging parts of the Bible in a literal interpretation, and then that got confused with my experience in engaging the spirit world, the spirit, however it manifested in my body. I felt like, okay, well, I guess, Christ is coming in me, through me, and it looks like
I've
this.
I've talked to a lot of people just to open myself up in like, even when I was in church, a lot of guys, and a lot of them would tell me, I think I might be the Antichrist. Like they would say that they've thought about that. Yes. I think I might be the Antichrist from Revelation. And I'm like, no, you're not, dude. You're not. It's okay. You're not the Antichrist, bro. And I have to like talk them out of it, right. And it's this weird kind of psychosis. Is how far do you play into that thought? That you embrace your identity as the Antichrist or something.
Yes. Well, with the literal interpretation of that passage per se, that character needs to be fulfilled, right? So if you're
might as well be me.
If you're struggling with, maybe you're struggling with lust, maybe you're struggling with, gosh, man, I feel like I'm so selfish and I can't, whatever the hang up may be, whatever the pastor's, talking about, that is this deep sinful part of your life that you feel like is being exposed, that you cannot have any victory over, and then all of a sudden you associate, well, gosh, I've been struggling in this area for so long, well, maybe I just am like, I'm not victorious, then all of a sudden you start to assume this literal interpretation, which I feel like is dangerous, very dangerous for me. I mean, I don't literally interpret the Bible anymore. That to me, I feel like that's part of my well-being and mental health, that I'm not a
Well,
literal interpreter.
that leads us to this Trump thing and how it's showing how delusional either they've always been or they're becoming a lot of the Christian church here in America who believes that God sent Trump here. There was a post I read today that this guy said that Trump was the president in heaven. That God told them that Trump was the president in heaven and Joe Biden was not the legal presiding president in the U.S. And so as it is in heaven, as Trump is still on the throne, they're going to pray him back in the office, and just weird. It's delusional. It's not real. It's not real at all. And there's all kinds of weird stuff that came out with this Trump thing and with QAnon and having these weird, whispers in your ear of what's going on behind. And I don't know, can people become delusional, or is it something you're born with? You were born bipolar, it's your cross to bear, or are people believing their own delusions, and it's seeping into their reality? It's seeping into their Facebook post. It's seeping into the water cooler conversations at work, and they begin to believe these scenarios that aren't real. Or is it real to them? Both of those scenarios.
Well, some of the things that I've gravitated to along my mental health journey is Dr. Emoto's water experiment. So I love Dr. Emoto's water experiment. And what he does is he speaks words of life over this water droplet, and then he speaks words of death over this other water droplet. And so the words of life, water droplet, beautiful, like snowflake, geometric pattern. Yeah, like that. Yeah. And then over the droplet of hate, you have this very distorted picture under the microscope. If your listeners haven't looked it up, I highly recommend it.
And I recommend doing it too, for sure.
Yeah. They have a rice experiment that you can do, and it, the hatred bowl of rice, it gets moldy or whatever. So I look at this as my relationship to how I interpret God. So if you have this Old Testament punitive God, like a punishing God type figure, and that's your idea of God. Like, okay, man, I'm looking forward to God coming and punishing the sinners, and coming back and in glory and wiping out all of wickedness. Like, if that's your idea of God, then in my opinion or experience, you gravitate toward these ideas about futuristic events, and you have the whole us versus them mentality, which I don't think is good for my mental health, because in my spiritual interpretation, I feel like God is trying to help us become more God-like in our spiritual experiences through meditation and how we engage life.
I seen a text today or last night said God became man, obviously through Christ. God became man so that man can then become God.
I like it. Now I've taken a different interpretation of Christ coming as it relates to my mental health and well-being as well.
Would that be your spiritual awakening, the coming of the Christ anointing and the illumination, or?
I do. I think so. I mean, I think it's progressed along the years, but the way I interpreted Christ before, there was an angry God that couldn't stand the sight of sin. And so Christ needed to come in my stead and make me okay enough to be in God's presence.
Yeah.
So, and you have to know that when I believe in something, I believe it all the way, right? So if these are my core beliefs about myself and my kids, like, okay, you're sinful, you're bad, and you need something to make you good, then to me, I just have a problem like that. It's to me, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. So I interpreted, there's a, I found that the doctrine of original sin came into Christianity at a very later point in early church. There's a doctrine of original blessing, which I looked into,
Kay Fairchild.
which
Yeah.
instead, yeah, Kay Fairchild, she's been a huge help and benefit in helping me reframe the way I interpret Christ and his impact on myself and others. So now I interpret Christ to come, and he's trying to restore our divinity. He's trying to help us walk into our divinity. And then, think verses like greater things you will do. Like that verse, it makes sense. Like, okay, believers are going to do things greater than him. Okay, well, I don't see how I could do anything greater than Christ. Like if I'm supposed to be this sinful being, like that's all I'm thinking about. Oh, I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner. So as I progressed in my Christianity, I changed my self-talk from I'm a sinner to I am victorious. I am one with God through Christ. And that Christ is not something weird where I have to drive around, a white car with a sword. It's normal. He's helping me. The Spirit, the Great Spirit, is helping me walk in my divinity, so I can be a better person on the earth. I can be more compassionate. I can be a part of community in a way where I don't look at people as sinners, like different than me, but I can look at them as fellow human beings discovering their divinity. And that's how I choose to express my spirituality now.
Yeah.
And I feel like that keeps me grounded, and it helps provide some framework for some of the problematic things that happened throughout Christianity and the energies that followed the Inquisition and the witch hunts and some of the problematic things where they tried to force an idea, a doctrine on a people, and did some very, very bad things.
Yeah. So, that's how you're internalizing, the message of Christ, the Bible, and things like that. So, spirituality, I know you've kind of turned me on to it. I've always knew about it over the years and studied a little bit here and there, but I haven't really practiced it. Was Qigong, and you were telling me that, listen, a daily practice of Qigong, I'm into breath work and things like that. Breath work is pretty aggressive. At least I like to kind of get high off your breath kind of thing, that really aggressive stuff. But the Qigong is more gentle. There's some, touching the energy meridians in the body to kind of wake yourself up and allow that Qi to flow freely throughout your body, kind of balancing your energy, right? If you have like this your energy is unbalanced or whatever, maybe you're more egoic, maybe you're more prideful, or you're more into your sexual energy, whatever it may be. But it's about balancing the energy. The chakras would be kind of very similar as well. But you told me about Qigong and how much it's done for you, and you sent me some videos, and I did it, and I found it to be really setting for a day to do it early on. But you really champion Qigong as far as like that and breath work and Wim Hof and stuff like that, your own inner divinity, connecting with God through these practices that help you like walk that narrow path of sanity, not sanity, maybe going back and forth. Like I really feel like there's a middle passage of the quote from what is it? I think it's Campbell, Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
Is that and somebody's asking about schizophrenia here, but Joseph Campbell says that the schizophrenic drowns in the same water that the mystic swims with the light. The mystic, or the shaman, if you will, one who is
That's
able to
great.
kind of
I love it.
navigate
Yeah.
through those realms and come back, and
Yes.
not get lost in
Yes.
that delusion, in that land of make believe, if you will.
Right. So coming back to the schizophrenia, I think it's really good to talk about fear and faith. So if you go into your experience and you're engaging the spiritual world or the all creator with this idea of a punishing God, man, that could be a horrifying experience. If you go into that experience thinking that's what God's like, man, that could be a bad trip. That could be a really, like, your psyche. That's why I wanted to talk
Do you think
about.
it works different for different people though? Like as you've kind of
Yeah.
learned yourself and like, hey, I can't, that doesn't gel with me. Other people, it keeps their ass in check. To know that if I get offline, God is going to strike me with a lightning bolt. And listen, it keeps them on the straight and narrow. For you, it was condemnation, it was fear, it was judgment.
Yeah.
It was like, I need to feel alive. Well, let me try these other things outside of God. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So do you think that it's like different strokes for different folks as well, just to kind of know yourself?
Yeah, well, I
Because obviously it works for some people,
So I could look back on my life and I could take the fear approach of God, and I could look back and say, okay, that did keep me out of a lot of problematic. It kept me out of jail. It kept me, kept me out of a lot of bad things. But so if I take that approach with my kids in parenting, and just be like, hey, you got to fear me, you got to fear the consequences, instead of hey, man, I want to get to know what you like,
fear the belt.
let's partner in life, I want to see what you're into.
But some people, and I think it's unhealthy, but they rule their households that way with the belt.
Yeah.
It's definitely unhealthy.
Well,
there's a lot of trauma that comes with it, and I think that's what you're dealing with. I used it for the first time the other day, dealing with religious trauma, that people deal with.
Yeah. So those early years, if your parents are going to church and they're beating you with a belt, and you realize, okay, that's the God they believe in, that's what God's like, and then to me, I feel like you put yourself more at risk on taking on those fear-based big concepts of God, which could turn into paranoia. You talk about pronoia, like internalizing the word and saying God is for me. The people around me are for me because I'm a believer in God. Well, if you have this idea that God is a punishing God and waiting, like, if you're out of line, I'm going to hit you with the belt. Like, that's what you grew up, that's what you learned in your younger years, and you associate that with God, those God concepts. That could, I really do think that could be some problematic thinking patterns for people and create some trauma.
A lot of us have to kind of work through that because we bring that, relationship with our parents. Even if it was one parent, you kind of bring that in to your relationship with God. And if your mom was, again, if they ruled you with the rod, then subconsciously God is ruling you with the rod. If they're waiting to slap you when you mess up and when you drop the ball, and they're yelling at you, then even in this grace thing, a graceful God is still yelling at you, and you kind of got to work through that. A lot of people do. Yeah.
So, I'm passionate about getting people to meditate. I feel like I have found so many good things just meditating and spending time in God's presence. That's why I'm big into Wim Hof. I feel like, all right, with the breath holds, you got that subtle music in the background. I'm spending time with the giver of life, right? And I feel like so many cool things happen when I am in the presence of God on my own. And it's like you invite this presence to speak to you, right? And I don't feel like I need to tell anybody else what God is or who God is. I feel like I want to tell you a way you can experience God for yourself. And in doing so, man, it's going to look similar. You know, you're going to have similar ideas. I'm going to have similar ideas. They're going to look similar. And that's the cool thing about it. I mean, I feel, you know, there are some groups that I connect with that you know, one is a religious trauma recovery group on Facebook. And there's some teachers there. And I could be pondering an idea or some concepts, and then all of a sudden they teach on, well, here we are, we're dialed into the same frequency, you know? And I miss that. I miss that aspect of church, of like home meetings. You know, my wife and I, we used to do this before we had kids. We had people come over, we talk about our life, we pray about our life, and then somebody get a word of knowledge. You know, you know, it's like the spiritual gifts happen.
I'm trying to recreate that online, man. I know it's a slow process, and we're stepping into it, but for sure, because I'm with you 100%. You know, I got born again at a home meeting, and we thrived at. I think that's where the true church kind of was. You know, was they met from house to house and small relational, and people brought different things to the table, and it was seeing God in their beauty. But I'm with that for sure.
It's good stuff. You talk about the qigong too. So the qigong, and I feel like you know, a lot of the new ideas on how we can engage the healing field with our imagination. So these new ideas, as we're engaging the healing field, putting the healing out to whoever we're thinking about, whether it be Reiki or self-healing. It's like you can engage the healing field and engage the energy around your body. And I'm not saying I'm a master at it. I'm just a novice. But for me, having the ability to look into those practices is freeing. Like before, you know, going to like religious community, they would say stay away from those things.
Yeah.
And now I feel like,
Kundalini,
man, there's such a wealth of information and knowledge and beauty in those practices that it's cool that I can engage them without fear. And you know,
that's interesting that we do that. I don't know many. I mean, I know that's why people, you know, I know that's why what we've built here is just kind of resonated, because I am, you know, Christ centric, right? But like, you know, if it's good, man, I want it. I want in on it. Like if there's Buddhists who are like engaging God in a good way, or they're doing some type of practice that is good, whether it's helping people, listen, that's how we're going to evolve as a people, even past your religion. That's how your religion is going to evolve. Like if you just focus on the good stuff and just learn from others. But it's really cool to see what we have going on, and I appreciate you know, our Thursday nights and get to see everybody on Zoom and people worshiping, people meditating, and then you doing the breath work and qigong without even being guided. You kind of know your own stuff, and you're just having your own connection with God and just focusing on that for a little bit. And you know, and I've been talking about this a lot lately, is just seeing God in the diversity of all of it. You know, and to see him, you know, see Christ in it, you know, in the diversity of, and I think he is. And I think that I'm not the only one. I think that Billy Graham, you know, I keep saying his name when it comes to that, because people need to take some lessons from the late Billy Graham about him, you know, seeing that God has a people for his name's sake scattered throughout the whole earth, and people who don't even know the name of Jesus, who are part of what he would call the body of Christ. You know, and so people who are doing good works, people who love God, people who are in touch with their spirituality to, you know, to connect with God. And just because they do it a little bit different, like, listen, if it's working, it's working. And there's no sin against that. There's no fault in that. And it's working. And I want to know what's working, like what's helping you to hold your stuff together. Because I know people who get to the breaking point and they can't do it. They can't do it. And I want to know, listen, like you learn eventually, right? It's after, you know what I'm saying, repetition, after you keep doing it. And I've talked to you about being able to feel when you're having an episode. And then you can kind of, but I noticed you also said that it can be a little deceptive. Like it just kind of lulls you into it, and you don't realize that you've crossed that line. So for some people, it's hard to you know, get, you know what I'm saying, familiarized with what it feels like when I'm having an episode or when I'm getting caught in a delusion. And I think many people are there, but I think once you've had a lot, you kind of know, like, hold on, I'm kind of drifting a little bit. I need to, for me, it's getting back on my spiritual practice. It's making sure that my connection with God is on point, that I'm doing my own spiritual work, and all of that comes into play. And what would you say to that? Being able to feel something like that coming on, are you able to catch yourself? I mean, you're doing better. It's been longer and longer and longer since you had some kind of crazy manic episode. You're able to kind of balance the energy, which is huge. And people need to learn how to do that. So what about you? Like, how are you, being able to stay in this state of bliss, in this state where the world is trying to give you solutions and answers and take your peace from you and rock you, which I think can cause people to go manic. You know what I'm saying? What are you doing?
I think a big part of it is just knowing again that I have a life experience that might be different than others. And I pick up this label of bipolar disorder, or for some, it might be schizophrenia. Now, that doesn't make me less than or problematic. It just means I have another set of circumstances to manage that not a lot of other people do. And I could have a life experience that might be similar to a shamanic path that we hardly have any information about in the West, in the medical West. So I don't judge my experience anymore. I don't judge that of somebody who might be struggling with schizophrenia, because it's got to be so confusing for them to try and make sense out of what they're experiencing. One thing that I do is that I believe is highly effective is I connect with a group. There's a couple of groups that I connect with. There's DBSA, that's Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance. I connect with them through Zoom, and this is a non-judgmental community where we can give each other support, compassion, encouragement, and we can talk about some of these experiences that we're trying to make sense out of, which can be very confusing. The other is NAMI, and that's National Alliance Mental International, something like that. But anyways, they provide groups that people with mental health challenges can be a part of. They also have friends and family. So if you're a friend or a family member with somebody who might be given a diagnosis of, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, borderline personality, you can connect with groups as a friend and a family member, and you can connect with others that are trying to find ways that they can support this person who's having a hard time dealing with life and reality. And I think these are tremendous resources. For me, like the peer support has been huge, because largely you feel like you're being given a death sentence and you have to deal with it all on your own.
Yeah.
Now, getting rid of that stigma is huge. Being able to connect with others is huge. And I've found a psychiatrist that I work with that knows me. I am working on titrating off all medication as I learn skills that keep me grounded. There's other people in my group as well that are not taking medication, that are still part of the group, just learning to manage the energies.
Yeah, I mean, people are mixing the two, and you know what I'm saying, maybe rightfully so. Like, how should you, or even if you should, mention to somebody that they may be suffering from psychosis? I believe that there's a lot of people, I mean a lot, in Christendom, for sure. Yeah. Even, people we look up to who have given platforms, and it's hard to kind of speak against it, because we know that, like, ancient culture, like, they honored their schizophrenics and stuff were their prophets, man. Yeah, were there people who just locked themselves in a cave and talked to themselves and divine with spirits and stuff, and they came back with this crazy information? But you know what I'm saying? So to, like, demonize that, we want to kind of champion that in a sense. Like, we need to bring some of that back, I feel. But then, I have these conversations with people who reach out to me in my inbox, and there's varying degrees of it. I don't want to be guilty, and I just, my personal fear, I don't want to be guilty of entertaining delusions or encouraging them, and I believe a lot of people, like, trust me, the messages I get, And I hate saying that because I'm reading some of the comments and people, they automatically think I'm assuming them. I usually tell you these situations, like, just so you know that I'm not talking about you. Like, you know what I'm saying? People thinking that they're my mom from a past life who's come to give me guidance and tell me what to do and wants to reconnect with me in this life. Someone who thinks that they're supposed to be my wife from another planet and they're reincarnated God come back to reconnect with me. Like, I'm talking about that kind of like dangerous kind of stuff too. People think that they're reincarnated beings from, you know, Zeta Reticuli. You know, that one lady I had that we kind of make mention of, she believes she's in a romantic relationship with a being from the Orion Council of Light or Arcturian. I don't know, one of them. And I feel like that's unhealthy. I feel like it's delusions. But then again, two things come up. Like, if it's helping them to cope, if they've created that reality to help them cope with some of the traumas and hard things in life. Listen, they're not hurting anybody. Listen, more power to them. Maybe when it tries to invade on other people's free will and they try to bleed that narrative over into others. Listen, an angry God is coming back to judge you. You need to repent. You got to come to our church. Angry. Listen, it's in there too. It's in there too. How do we handle that? Do we not say anything? Do we lead them into breath? That's what I lead them into breath work, lead them into the bliss and the beauty and the presence of God. That works for me. It will work for you. You know, maybe you need something more. You need a counselor. You need to talk to somebody. Like, where's the, you know, the balance? Where's the boundary that we don't get to be judged like that you're entertaining this stuff, and TruthSeekah, you're taking their money. Like, you're just like, they're supporting you and these are delusional people. And you're just like, yes, tell me about the beings from the planet. Yeah. Tell me who you were. I don't get down on that stuff. So I don't do that, but I don't want to be guilty of entertaining, you know, this stuff as well, which a lot of people do. There's people who come to me and say, yeah, I had a session with so-and-so and they told me I'm reincarnated. My grandmother is from, you know, Arcturian and her grandmother's from the Pleiades and I'm here to save the earth. And like, and this is like, hold on, you're like, there's some people who are like, you know, pouring fuel on that fire of those delusions. I don't want to be that person. I want to talk about it. I want to discuss it. I really believe in spirituality. I believe that balance. I believe in balance in the energy. I believe in making sense of your delusion. I believe in that your spirituality should have real world impact, that it's practical to just be a good person. But give me some info on that, man. What would you, if you had my platform and these people come to you, because what if they're telling the truth? What if their grandmother is from Zeta Reticuli? And here we are making fun of them on the podcast.
Right? And it's helpful until it's not. It is their truth and it's helpful for them until it's not. So, I mean, I would say to them, here we are, we're engaging energies. We're engaging a spiritual realm that we're trying to figure out. And at times it could be confusing. And just give place to that, hold space for that. We're engaging energies that we don't know everything about.
Exactly.
And here, you might think that you are my grandmother or you are my wife from another realm or reality.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, I come back to this. I come back to aligning with Christ. Now, you're going to talk about Christ and you're going to emit Christ and you're going to attract Christ followers. So this energy that you're emitting, you're going to attract people that are seeking that same energy, right? That's the light of Christ. And I feel like we're all part of that body. As we engage it starts to look similar and it starts to look attractive. But I come back to, okay, I'm attracted to Christ. There's something in you that's attractive to me, not sexually, but hey, we can
maybe
align.
Sexually. I'm joking. I gotta lighten it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, totally.
Someone just said that you're handsome in chat, though. Shout out.
What's that?
She keep going. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm joking.
So I mean, I feel like that can be confused, right? That's my partner. Oh, that's my soulmate. Well, I'm probably not your soulmate. What you might be seeing in me is could be Christ.
For sure.
Maybe that's
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah,
you're
yeah.
attracted to.
Yeah, I get that a whole bunch for sure.
Yeah. So you have a platform, and you're engaging the spirit, and you're emitting the spirit, and you're attractive to a big community. So I get it why they would be attracted to you.
Yeah.
And but it's what's in you that's attractive. That's what I would come back to.
Yeah, I mean, I know I used to hear this in church and youth group and stuff. It's like they used to say they're not attracted to you, they're attracted to the Christ in you. That light that is within you, and then other people, want to be with a spiritual leader or whatever it is from that sense. But not even like attracted, to me or feel like they, want to be a part of what we're doing or something. But again, like, if it's detrimental, does it become detrimental? But I think that in the same time, like if we really hold a magnifying glass up to it, like all of our realities and are different anyway, like of what we really think is going on, of who we think rules the planet, the government, who Donald Trump is, who Jesus is. We have these different, none of them probably match up at all. Probably everybody in the world has a different view that they've created because of movies that they've watched, because of things their parents told them, that they still believe in Santa Claus, and you know what I'm saying, and all of these different myths and things that aren't real, but to them they are. So to judge one of them as more weird, or you know what I'm saying, as someone who thinks that they're from, the Zeta Reticuli, versus someone who feels like Jesus is speaking to them in the middle of the night and telling them things about their destiny, they seem a little bit more, I guess, scriptural, if you will, but they're still far out. You know what I'm saying? So to kind of judge someone's delusions over the next, or reality or false reality that they've created, I believe, and I know you do too, that what we believe shows itself to us. And if you really, if you believe in those beings from Zeta Reticuli, I think that they can like literally manifest here into our reality because you believe in them. And if you believe that you are to be whatever it is, then you birth it into reality. And you mentioned having all of these ideas and creativity and things and paths that you can follow out. And I talk about this too, like all of them would work. You can be a great poet, Dave. Give your life to poetry. You've got some really awesome poetry. If you followed that out, it would work. It is a path that exists. It is a timeline. If you wanted to be a spiritual healer, we've discussed that. If you wanted to be a great blogger, like all of this stuff, if you want to be a good father, be present for your family, like all of these exist, and you can follow each one of them out and bring it into your existence. So to judge someone's psychosis, I think we're splitting hairs, with a lot of this, especially if it's not hurting anybody. And that's what I want to know. Like, what's working for you? How are you holding it together? And if it is, I am from Zeta Reticuli and I know who I am and I know my ancestors and I commune with them when I go to sleep. And if that's like helping you to be a better person, hey, I'm for it, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't, even though it's really crazy, it's far out, but you have to be able to know that it's crazy. Even like a Christian, like you have to know that, listen, this stuff you're talking about is crazy. You believe these stories. You believe that Jonah was swallowed whole for 3 days and lived in the belly of a whale and was spit out and he didn't die. You believe that, well, he had oxygen. He had food down there. Like all these weird, grandiose stories that we believe were literal. You got to understand how crazy you sound to believe this. It is faith. It is the belief in the unknown, but it's helping you become a better person. It's helping you hold your stuff together, So who are we to judge, man? Because again, what if they're right? Like what if what if Jonah did live in the belly of the whale for 3 days? Like I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know that your grandmother from Arcturus is visiting you every third Saturday. She could be. I don't know. I'm not there. So we have to, we have to be open for that too, I think. And
For
rambling,
what
man, but it
helped me
makes,
was that,
it's these things go through my head, dude. I'm trying to get it out.
yeah, no, that's good. I love it. I love it. I think we could all come back to, Jesus. He taught that the kingdom of heaven was at hand. So, and he taught that the kingdom of heaven was from within, and that was problematic to the religious leaders at the time,
Yeah.
because
It
he
was
was taking away
external.
a lot of
It
the
was
work.
external. It was in the cathedrals and
Yeah,
what they can
exactly.
build and see. Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as we have this external God that we're looking toward in the future to come and save us, to me that's problematic, because here it gives me a passive approach to my life. Like, okay, now I just sit and wait for this future event of heaven that I can partake in a future. No, to me that doesn't make sense. What makes sense to me is I engage heaven in my meditation. I engage heaven in spiritual conversations where the spirit is flowing through me. So I feel like, okay, that's something tangible. That's an experience that I can live in the here and now, and know that some really cool things are being done, and I can engage with that. Now if now getting back to the fear and the faith part, like if I have a fear of future events that are playing out politically, or with the leadership of my country, and I've got these scenarios that are wandering around in my head, then yeah, that takes me out of my present reality. And for me, that's part of what keeps me grounded, is staying in my present reality. So
Is
if I
that
put
just to
so
keep
much,
it? Is that to keep your spirituality simple?
it
Is that?
is it
Yeah.
keeps it simple for me. Is that I can stay present to my dogs, I can stay present to my kids, I can stay present to my wife, I can stay present to my bills, I can stay present to my work environment, the people at my work I can be present with, I can have real conversations. um I can talk sports. It doesn't have to be all sports. I could talk about the cool things that the sports people are doing to have, impact on their community. So things, to me, like, as it relates to real life here and now, like, I'm not a Jew, I'm not a Gentile, I'm not an Israelite, I'm a Californian. That's how I think. Like, I'm not an Arcturian, I'm a human being. Like, okay, that's my existence playing out in this reality. And as long as I can stay connected to that and have an influence on those around me today, okay, I'm doing a good thing. Like, I don't want to get caught up in arguing about past events and what's right and
Or,
what's
or,
wrong.
or, or even things that you can't prove, right? It's just like
Exactly.
theories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see how that plays out in my life. I want to see how that plays out in your life. I want to see how we can partner together with ideas on making the world that we live in a better place. And if I can hold space to that energy, I feel like, okay, I'm on a good path. And that's a path that has the potential to create some positive changes for the environment. Like, okay, I can partner with and reverence creation. Like, okay, now I care about what happens to the earth, because wow, okay, Mother Earth gives, like, earth good plants and nourishment to my body. One of the meditations I love is about your Gaia Mother Earth meditation.
That one goes
Is so good,
overlooked, so
man.
I appreciate you saying that.
Oh man, it's so good.
Yeah.
So good. I think the divine feminine energy is something that we could
The
really
mother.
engage in, as
Man,
as we relate.
you know what? I'm working on a new song. I wrote it last night, but I mentioned Gaia. Like, where were you before Gaia? Like, whenever Gaia um, dwelt alone, it was formless and void. Like Mother Gaia was here before. I make a mention to it, but go ahead. Shameless
No,
plug.
no, it's great, man. It is really cool. Like, before, I just gave the earth like a second thought. Now it's like, wow, man. I look at it as something to be revered. Like, this is something sacred, sacred ground. I give reverence to, like, Native American Indians. Wow, the way they engage the earth, the way they engage prayer, the way they engage Thanksgiving for what they had. Maybe they had to take a life, but they took and gave reverence to that life. It's like, wow, man, that's really cool. I try to do that. I try to apply that to my life now. Like, okay, if I'm eating some meat, I'm going to say a prayer over. I'm going to say thank you for the life that was given, for the nourishment that can come into my body. And I'm also going to, like, this is something I just do. It's like, I hold space for lawyers. Like, I want to meditate on lawyers that do good for animals, lawyers that do good for oceans, lawyers that do good for our planet. Like, let's start to make some good laws that protect these things that give us life.
Such as Trump.
Well, he's not.
I had to throw it in. What some people believe, though, you know what, and you know what I'm saying. I don't want to get into that, but he's an easy name just to interject. But you know, the idea of, and that's what I wanted to kind of talk about too. I mean, just with this idea that God backs your delusions or your beliefs or your religion, that the creator of heaven and earth backs what you say, and then other people believe it. It's a cosign from the creator. You don't have to test what I say. You don't have to judge what I say. You just need to know that God told me in his word, in my dreams, that this is truth. And that, you know, preachers and Christians alike, you know, use that as this instant validation. And I think it can be detrimental to a lot of people. And I think it ties into this whole Trump stuff of what just happened with all these prophets claiming that Trump was going to do 8 years back to back, and, you know, and Trump is still the president, you know, right now, and just weird stuff that goes on when you tie God into it. We got to be careful with that. You know,
right, definitely.
God told me this. God says that. I really like the I feel. I think that the God thing is a cop-out. Say, hey, God told me that he doesn't like you being gay. Hold on, just tell me you don't like gay people. Tell me that you don't like, you know, this or that or whatever. But when you put God in it, it's like, listen, I didn't say it. I love gay people, but God doesn't like you guys. Like, come on, that's a cop-out. Like, own, you know what I'm saying? Own your convictions. Own what it is that you believe in. And so it gets, you know, it's religion, man. I don't think we can escape it. I think we just have to find out how to navigate in the midst of it. What do you think?
I do.
Because like trying to destroy, you know, obviously we're going to be an example of the beautiful parts of it, but you know, you can't, the beautiful parts are only beautiful because the negative parts exist, you know?
I would say each person has a responsibility to gain information on their own. And if they're relying on external sources, they're going to get bad information, because that's just the way the universe sets it up. If you would rather get your spiritual ideas through somebody else, you're going to get bad information. Because just think about it. The creator of the universe wants you to go to the creator of the universe. He doesn't want you to go through somebody. So to me, it just makes sense that you're going to get bad information.
Well, maybe that deals with the whole unworthy thing and the sin thing. Is that, listen, I don't live like Brother Ken lives. Brother Ken is a devout man of God, and Brother Ken has a great prayer life, and Brother Ken takes care of his children. And me, I'm just coming off of dope. I'm coming off of drugs, and I gotta listen to Brother Ken because he's gonna help me. You know what I'm saying? So there's this weird hierarchy there that we want to listen to what Brother Ken has to say about God. Yeah. Versus like you said, that just coming off of dope, just trying to get my life together, can come boldly before the throne of grace, as the scripture says. And that's the beauty of the gospel, is that it tears the middleman down. Like, we don't need a structure. We don't need that external source. And that's why I love it. Jesus, again, saying that the kingdom is within. You know, the Father wants to commune with you. Close your eyes. Go in your prayer closet. Communal worship and communal prayer is good, but listen, go home and close your door and talk to God for yourself. And if you're not doing that, you're missing out, and you're relying on secondhand information when we are the king and priest of our own homes, and we have free access to God's heart. And that's the beautiful things from the gospel, right? Those are some of the perks of being a child of God, you know, that everybody has access to.
Everybody has
not just me or Brother Ken, whoever that is.
That's right.
Kenneth Ken Hagee. Kenneth Copeland.
Is there any other questions you got, or
I'm reading? There's a lot of conversation here.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions, I mean, I know we got a lot of stories, and I I know I didn't post the Zoom link, but if anyone's patrons, it's the same Zoom link. So if you want to join the conversation and ask Dan, I said Dan, Dave, a question here, or myself, feel free to do that. So the Zoom link is open. I just had a podcast with Dan earlier, so my good friend.
There you go.
But if anybody has questions, just let us know. But no, there's a lot of conversation going back and forth.
Okay,
And,
good.
And it's a hard conversation. It's not fun. We don't want to you don't want to label anybody. You don't want to point fingers, but I mean, even owning your own delusions. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we have to be okay with, knowing that, being able to ridicule what we believe.
Okay, so you asked about going into one of the dark times. So I'll talk about my trip to Vegas, which was dark. It ended up to be, it was a lot of fun at the time, but again, you feel like you're engaging the unlimited potential of existence. So here I'm going to Vegas, and you've got all this energy running through me, and I feel like, why is this energy running through me? Because my limbs are just moving so freely, and it's like I can stretch, and my ability to be flexible and quick is like wow, it's blowing me away. And so I started talking to some folks that were MMA, right? And I'm 46 now. This was 11 years ago, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm meant to be like an MMA fighter. I don't know why, but it's like I'm so quick with my limbs and my movements and my flexibility, and I've got these tons of energy. And so I'm thinking, oh, and then there was this guy giving this talk. His first name was Tito. I forget his last name.
Ortiz?
But I got to meet him. What's that?
Tito Ortiz.
Tito Ortiz, yes. I got to meet him, and I get to be on camera with him on the news in Vegas. And I was like, whoa, this is totally cool. And but in the meantime, I'm in Vegas. I'm homeless. I'm away from my family. I'm thinking about becoming this MMA star with all this, Kundalini energy springing through me, and I'm like, it's crazy, dude. And I end up, I'm in Vegas, and I'm thinking I'm gonna buy all this stuff because I've got an unlimited source of income behind me, and so I end up purchasing. Using my credit cards, I purchased timeshares. So I made all these crazy purchases, and I ended up in jail in Vegas for disturbing the peace. And so, and if you can imagine disturbing the peace in Vegas, you got to be, pretty over the top to do that. As they were taking me to jail in Vegas, I kicked out the back of the police car. And I got the full-on treatment. I was in the chair with the spit mask on, tied to the chair as they're wheeling me into jail. And it was a horrible experience. So that's when it started to get dark, right? So I didn't know these energies that were coming on me. But gosh, you have that. You feel like you've got the strength of 100 men in you. And I remember I did get into a fight on the strip with multiple people, did quite well, and that fed into my delusion. Like I had all this unexplainable energy, and I got into a fight with 6 guys and did pretty well. And I'm like, that's part of the delusion going down and getting yourself into trouble.
So it seems like in an everyday interaction, the delusion is following the what ifs.
Yeah.
In everyday interaction. I mean, let's just say a woman says hello. What if I married her? What if we went on a date? What if I, in your mind, and you're playing all the stuff out. And then again, you have all this jolt of energy. You're watching an MMA fighter interview. what if I become an MMA fighter?
Yeah.
What if I start this website? What if I become an energy healer? And you start following them down, and you have to cut them off. Hold on, wait. No. That's not what I chose to do. I chose to do. Listen, Dave, I deal with that too. And it's a creativity thing. There's a creative aspect. There's a negative aspect, and that you can follow down if it's something negative or something that just really, I say negative. Well, it just is like what would you call it? Changing careers. I can easily start a website and maybe get away with it. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy. It's going to pull me away from what I said yes to. And you know that I'm big on this. You listen to the podcast. I am big on this, because I got so many things pulling me into this and pulling me here, and this would be a great idea. That's why I love working with people. I give them some of my ideas. Listen, you can do this, because you can tell me your story and listen, do this, boom, boom, boom. I'm a visionary. And many of us are. We've got all of these great ideas, and we try to follow them. We have this, okay, what if I did this? What if I became a Christian rapper? What if I started a metal band? What if I started my podcast? Like, hold on. Am I really going to start a podcast? I mean, I think that's life, though. Yeah. That's life. That's decision. That's choices. But I think maybe the bipolar thing is really following it out. I mean, I've got a friend who's diagnosed bipolar, and that stuff will deal with him for months. He'll follow it out for months. Is that what we're talking about? Months? Are we talking a day that seems like 1,000 years? Are we talking about months? Are we talking about days until you slap out of it? What are we talking about? Of following a thought of what could be? Because listen, that's how businesses are created. That's how dreams are made, to follow a thought, see the potential, have a vision, bring it to pass. All potentials, all realities exist. You can do any of these, Dave. How manic are we talking? All of it?
All of it, really. I mean, it's helpful until it's problematic. That's what I go back
until it pulls you away from. You're talking to your wife, but you're thinking about the young random woman you seen today at the mall.
Okay,
because you kept following it out, and you went home, and you're still following it out. You're talking to your wife, but you're following out what could happen if I leave and go with this lady. And then some people act on it. Yeah. And they do it, and it's problematic. Yeah. They quit their job. Listen, I'm going to be a Christian rapper. Quit their job, become a Christian rapper, make $0. It's a problem.
So I'll tell you what I do now, okay? What I do now is I come back to the ideas that I'm married, okay? And what I do with that is I'll say, okay, maybe my wife and I are jiving on some ideas or concepts and stuff like that. In the past, in my delusions, I've said I'm divorced and I go off and do my own thing, which has created its own problems. But now what I'll do is I'll say, we're not jiving on some issues. We need some help talking about these issues. So instead of saying, and I'm committed to staying here also. Like before, I would get the energies on me and I would feel like, okay, it's creating a toxic environment. I just got to split because I can see it's creating some fear and anxiety for my wife. And so in order to appease the situation, I'm going to split. Now I don't do that. I like, okay, I have a safe space and a plan. Like if the energies come on me, first of all, I got emergency meds to take to slow me down so I can get a good night's sleep. So that's one of the onsets. Like I'm not able to sleep. So I can go a long time without sleep and have this energy, right? So I make sure I get my sleep. I make sure I have my routine. If I'm off of work, I have a routine. I wake up, I make breakfast, I walk the dogs, I make coffee. So all this, I have a routine that I'm engaged with that I can still call work. And if I'm working, then it's helpful for me because, all right, then I've got a routine that I'm engaged with. Yeah. You take away my routine, then it's like anything can pop up, right, in the garden.
I'm with you. You know what I think that a lot of people are coming to find out from this podcast is that they're bipolar. that they have bipolar disorder. You know what I'm saying? Like the more I talk to you, the more like, oh man, but I already know. You know what I'm saying? Like it is only through the same way that you find solace from whatever is negative in your life or whatever is pulling you out of your present moment.
Yeah.
The way that you find peace is the same way that I do too. You know, and whether you want to say it's bipolar 1 or even if you suffer from that, but it is definitely a part of the spiritual path. They may be they may be the mystical path, the path of the song and dance of the spirit world. You know that you are in dancing between the blurred lines. You know.
Yeah. Well, that's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that I feel like people with bipolar disorder that have been given the label.
I think you just diagnosed me, Dan. I mean, okay, Dan, Dave. I think you just diagnosed me on this podcast. No, I'm joking.
Well,
I don't receive that. I rebuke that, and no, I'm
there
joking.
you go.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Well, shamanic path, right? We're
For
on
sure.
A shamanic
It's
everybody's
closely
on
related.
their own shamanic.
Closely related.
Yeah. And I do think the lines are getting blurred in the.
It's always been blurred.
Realm.
We just it's our denial that they're similar is what's messed people up. To say that there is a connection there. There is a back and forth. There is this dream realm that exists in the midst, and we go back and forth, maybe even every single night when we go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? And then that's how close we are with that realm. And you wake up and you're receiving messages. Listen, I had a dream 2 days ago. I woke up, me and my wife woke up, she's like, I had a weird dream. Yeah, me too. And we're just like kind of barely asleep, barely awake, barely asleep, whatever in between. And I told her my dream is that our neighbors were in our yard from our other house that we're getting ready to sell. Our neighbors from across the street were in that yard and they were taking down my fence. And I was like, hey, why are you taking down the fence? Because my dogs had got out the yard. We had to go back to our old house. I just bought a new house. We had to go back to the old house and spend the night. And my dogs were in the driveway. And we're like, how'd y'all get in the driveway? Well, the neighbors working on the fence, and so the dogs got out. I said, hey, what's going on? Well, there was a water main that broke. Okay, and we just had to take up the fence to fix it. Well, the guy's taking up the fence in my dream. We get the call today that the neighbor that I had in my dream, he's buying our house, our other property. It's like, wow. Like I think that we are closely related more than we know with the dream world or the spirit world, which is the land of make believe, which is the imagination.
Yeah. So cool. Wow.
Little things like that.
To have that connection, to me, that blows me away. On one of my groups, there was a dad that was talking about his son with autism and unable to speak autism. So he found a way to communicate with his autistic son, and his autistic son, they ended up doing telepathy. So the father was thinking about a subject, and the son was able to type it out. And so the non speaking autistic son said, "Oh, I've got friends like me here right now." So I mean, it's mind blowing.
So now, did you hear this in the group or did you hear this on my podcast? Because I remember somebody saying this on the podcast the other day.
No, it was in my
it was in your group,
Aaron Abke group, and
someone shared like the same story on the podcast the other day.
Okay, they might have saw it. They might have saw the post.
I mean, it could be like something deeper though. Like it could be something that is happening. Do you remember that? I don't know if you watched that podcast episode, but the guy was talking about how he connected with his autistic son and he did it, or daughter, and it was telepathic, and she finally got it, and she was able to communicate with her father telepathically, and they couldn't speak verbally. It was just confusion. They couldn't understand one another, and it was through telepathic, and he would look at her and he finally asked something and she shook her head, and they just started crying. That she finally understood them, and it was through telepathic communication.
So to me, that's something that's near and dear to my heart, right? Because my daughter is 29 years old. She lives in a home with other kids like her that she's grown up with, so to speak. And she doesn't have the ability to communicate with words. So a lot of times, like when she was young, she was drawn to her music and humming, right? So I always noticed that about her. Like she's drawn to music and then she likes to hum. And then I started to think, when she's going in the car with me, she's looking back and her eyes are fluttering and she's smiling and interacting. And I'm thinking, does she have the ability to interact with, a realm that I can't see? And to me, when we're talking about using our vocal cords to ground with spirit, like Om chanting and stuff like that, like it sends a vibration in our body that does something really beneficial and cool that we don't understand. And that's how Miranda, she was communicating with the music that she really enjoyed. And I'm just like, wow, man, there's so much to discover that's really cool that we don't know about yet. So to me, I feel like that's a sense of wonder that I still have, that like, oh man, we don't know it all. We're still discovering these cool kids that, yeah, at face value, they might be problematic to our systems that we've built up. But the way that we can communicate with them might be so cool if we open our minds up to it.
Yeah.
So
deep, man.
yeah.
Good stuff. We got Chris is joining us, and I think Chris might have a question for you or something that he can add as well.
All right, cool.
What's up, Chris, bro? How are you, man?
All right. Really just wanted to know how to get a hold of you, I guess.
Okay. All right, great, Chris. Good to see you again. And I recognize you from our Thursday night discussion.
Right.
And definitely, I've gone through the path of the healer's course. Okay. Now, what I've done with that information is I've applied that to my own family setting right now. And so I don't have a services-based connection. If you want to look me up on Facebook, I'm on Facebook. You can direct message me on Facebook, and I'm definitely happy to connect with you there, and point you to any resources that might have been helpful for me, and even just talk with you. So you can connect with me that way.
We are working on the website though, and that would be like an email option and stuff. If you want to give the website out too, I know I'm helping you with that. We got some work to do, but if you want to give the website while we're here too.
So it's allsoulsheal.com.
Yeah, because I would just like to talk to you, because there's a lot of similarities. I was 17 with my first kid, and he has special needs, and I've dealt with depression, anxiety, just crippling depression and anxiety and stuff. But I think we could have, I think your experiences could really help me in a lot of ways.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to connecting, and please direct message me. I'm off of work this week, so I've got some time, and love to connect with you, bro.
He's also on Discord. I think if you message Dave, he'll get the message. But Dave's on Discord as well. So
okay, cool.
It's an easy way to connect. But
having a daughter or a child with special needs is something that not a lot of people can relate to. And again, with the mental health thing, you feel all alone, right? So you have a child with special needs, and the first part of it is feeling all alone, and nobody can relate to my experience. I feel all alone with all these fears and feelings. And so just to be able to talk about that freely is huge, bro. So I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
I know we don't have anything official yet. We're just kind of flirting with the idea, and it is one of those possibilities that you can follow out, and I've started to follow out. But talking about doing a roundtable discussion type podcast where I wouldn't even have to be there. We've got so many people in our community, even you two guys having a talk or adding people to the mix or whatever, that would create for a beautiful dialogue. And so we're going to have some more stuff coming out that I know that Dave and you too, Chris, would be perfect at being a part of the panel. So that's probably going to be something that deals with the Mystic Circle website that we're working on, and just really showcasing a lot of other people's work and what they have to offer as well. So that's something that we're working on slowly as well, with that whole thing. The mysticcircle.net is what it's going to be. So some type of membership / round table showcasing everybody's, kind of like what I'm doing, but just with a lot more people kind of thing. So anybody who's interested in that too, reach out to me. If you have anything you want to feature. So Richie is commenting in the chat. Richie's a part of. Richie's got some beautiful 5-minute. If you go to themysticcircle.net right now, Richie's work is already up there. Richie's been sending me some beautiful breath work and just body movement to be present. Little 5-minute short things that are powerful. Literally, they're really good. So they're 5 minutes. They're quick little things to kind of be present in your body, start your day, which are really good. So go check it out now. It's Skull and Bones. It's the very beginning stages of the website, but you can but Richie's got like 6 videos up there that are awesome. So
right on, man.
mysticcircle.net. So.
Cool.
Anything else, Chris? I mean, yeah, Chris, I'm just getting
No, that's perfect. Thank you for letting me get on here.
For sure. All right, brother.
Great.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah. So, anything else, Dave? I mean, we've covered a pretty good bit of stuff, man. Anything else that we didn't touch on? I've tried to, follow out every scenario that I could to create some cool dialogue.
I just wanted to say if anybody's thinking about titrating off medicine, there is a Facebook group. Let's see.
There you go. My bad.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay, no worries. If anybody's thinking about titrating off medicine, taking bipolar meds or any meds, psychotic meds that they want to get off of, there's a Facebook group called Inner Compass Conversations. And they're facilitating a community of getting off of medications that can be problematic for getting off of. So yeah. I'm a big proponent of working, with professionals, not throwing your system into shock and trying to getting off some of these medicines. Thankfully, I work with a psychiatrist that knows my story, respects my story, and respects my desire to get off of medicine. So I wish that on everybody that has a mental health challenge, as the mental health community is changing and evolving, which is cool to see.
And I guess the moral to this whole story is that you are using spirituality, breath work, qigong, and these different techniques to essentially get off of the medication that you're prescribed, right?
Yes. Along with a supportive community that has similar challenges. I wouldn't want to get off on my own. I see more danger than benefit. Just getting off on my own, not being attached to a community. So I've already witnessed the benefits of being a part of community and being able to support each other along the path. So
somebody who's not a part of that community, who's not a part of those groups, what would some of the questions be that someone would ask you to make sure that you're okay? Are there some checks? Hey, have you felt this? Have you felt the need or desire to do that? Are you okay? Do you think, is there anything like that? Like any questions that weekly you would ask someone who is a part of a group like that?
My first question is, how are you sleeping? So, yeah. If somebody's talking about feeling manic energy coming on, I'll ask them how their sleep is going. And I've got.
Now, are we talking rough sleep, or we're talking no sleep for that night?
No sleep for that night.
Staying up, tossing and turning all night, not getting any sleep, or not even trying to sleep,
or just having all these creative ideas that you're not able to stop.
Stop it, Dave. Come on, man. You're reading my book. Stop it, Dave.
But if it's not, it's helpful until it's problematic.
There you go.
So if you've never been into a hospital situation, you've got creative ideas flowing, and if you've got outlets like, writing songs and doing videos and putting your energy into something tangible, then it's a great thing. I'm talking about, starting businesses that you've got no business starting. Yeah. Just on a whim decision, spending a lot of money. Are you spending a lot of money? Are you purchasing a lot of things all at once with no plan? So I guess the plan has to go along with the ideas for it to make sense, for it to grow legs,
Yeah.
or
And
else it's just,
it's got to be conducive to your future, I guess, right?
yeah. Yeah, so I come back to, I'm married, I have kids, I have dogs. Those are the beings in my sphere of influence. Those are the beings of influence that matter most to me. Now, if go ahead.
I mean, I put myself on the spot, but I put you on the spot here too. I mean, and I mentioned just introducing you when you mentioned these manic purchases.
Right.
You've been a huge supporter of my work.
Right.
You've paid to be in my program, and most of the stuff I put out, are those manic purchases, or are these things that you've thought about that, listen, this is going to help me in what I'm saying, benefit me in my future, my well-being of the me that I want to create? Because I wonder, like, because you support most everything I put out, and that's not a diss, I'm thankful, but I want to make sure that those are thoughtful things that you've thought about, supporting, whether it's my work or whoever else's work that you're supporting.
Well, all right. So from the beginning, Truth, like I was being in religion, you tithe, right? So
For sure.
So I go to church, I tithe for their services. I respect that they put in work, that they've been trained, that they're putting in time to their product. So as an energy exchange, I give them a tithe, right? So now as my religious ideas and beliefs have changed, and you've provided community, so then I kind of take that idea of like the energy exchange and say, okay, well, he's putting time, he's trained, he's putting out products that have meaning and value that I resonate with and I use to engage the spiritual realm. So like that's an energy exchange that I give, like, okay,
For sure.
like I have no problem supporting you. Now the path of the healer, that was a big purchase that I talked about with my wife. And I said, hey, listen, I've got these experiences. I don't know if they could benefit anybody else. I don't know if I want to go ahead and do it right now, but I definitely think it might be something beneficial that could benefit people if they wanted to connect with me.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if it grows and I have to spend, like, Chris is reaching out to me and I don't mind connecting with him at all. But if like 10 people reach out to me, then it's like, okay, now I have to make a conscious choice. I'm a sheet metal worker. I make good money doing construction. Now I'm taking time away from my kids, and so that it just puts more into the equation. But it was an actual conversation that I had with my wife. So
Yeah.
it wasn't a
and it was something that you followed through. You didn't purchase it and not show up. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? You were very present. You were a part of the sessions, and so and you got something out of it, right?
I did. Yeah, I did. And more
But
so,
I think it's just healthy that we can even have this conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like, and I honor your whole walk, man. You know what I'm saying? And how you've and where you are with it, and you are trained in everything that I trained you in, and God has been training you in. So when you're ready to launch, you're good. You've got it all figured out. You may need a little help here and there, but if you decide to go that route, which is totally a part of your life, it's not even a what if, it totally is a part of your life. Even if it's in conversation, like we talked about, even if it is in this interview, that some of that stuff is still coming out, knowing that people are being set free and being healed through this conversation of you being open, knowing that if that's all you got from it, because we totally covered that, it's huge. So, I mean, I honor your path and I thank you for the support, but for sure. And I see the potential. I see all those potentials for everyone who signed up for that. Some of it came later, and that's a whole nother talk. Meeting with Brandon, who Brandon was like, kind of like, Brandon came into that the chorus of like, hey, I'm just supporting. I'm just here. I'm gonna take notes. I'm not going to launch a business, online business, or a blog or a website or a podcast, but I'm going to take notes and see where I fit in on this. And he believed in it so much. And then so Brandon ended up coming, and I couldn't even see Brandon as a healer. in that sense. Obviously, as a prayer warrior, somebody who loves God and loves people, but but how that would look. And then so Brandon came to the retreat, and I got to pray with Brandon and got to hang out with him for that whole day, which he's come to the first retreat that I did, but it was this one. I was like, okay, I see the spiritual healer in Brandon. You know what I'm saying? And so it's there. Whether you brand it with a website and a logo and an intro and a podcast, that's one thing. But as you're going on your day to day, speaking blessings and being a light into the world, listen, I think that has more impact and more integrity and more valor than any microphone or whatever. So, man, kudos to you for doing what you do, and you are a healer. And you know that has nothing to do with a ministry or a podcast or anything. So, man, shout out.
Right on. I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
That's good stuff. Well, give the website one more time. We got to work on it. There's some things we got to do some updates on it, but go ahead and give it while we're here, because I know you're going to do some blogs and stuff as well. So go ahead and give that website out.
Again, if you wanna contact me right now, you can find me on Facebook and you can direct message me and I'll get back to you. But the website that we're working on is allsoulsheal.com.
Allsoulsheal.com. Dave, such an honor to connect with you, to share your story, and I know that it helps people feel less marginalized. I mean, that's one aspect, but that's a huge aspect. To feel less marginalized, to feel like they're not alone. Because how many of us, we go through this stuff and we feel like, listen, we're the only ones that's going through this. That's hard, man. Yeah. And to have people to talk to. We have a community. We've built a community. There's nothing you can say that's gonna, weird us out, or cause us to run you off, or just seem so out of the box. And we stand by that. And we've heard those conversations. We may not agree with them, but we're open to have the conversation for sure. And we honor people where they're at. And Dave is a part of our community. So love you, Dave. Thanks for hanging out with me, man. Enjoyed it so much. And I'm sure I'm going to facilitate some stuff here in the not so distant future, where I want to do some roundtables and have you and some other people a part of it. So
love it. Just looking forward to it.
Yeah. May have to delegate some work and some help, but we're going to set it up for sure.
All right.
I see
Sounds
it.
Good.
It is a possibility that I see. And I can follow it, and I can bring it into existence. I know that it can help people. It is not so far outside of my reach. I'm gonna make it happen. We've been talking about it for a while.
Sounds good, brother.
Love you, bro.
Yeah.
We'll connect soon. Thank you.
All right, peace.
Shalom, peace. Dave Voelker, ladies and gentlemen. Good guy. Listen, you got to be able to be open. You got to be able to be honest. Got to be able to be candid with your experience. Your spirituality has to be practical. You have to be able to explain it to a child. You have to be, you have to have something tangible to give people. It's not just these, faith or grandiose ideas or what happened 2,000 years ago or 6,000 years ago. It has to be something that is practical for people where they are today. What's helping you cope? I want to know about it. I do. Is it your relationship with Buddha? Listen, let's talk about it. Allah, Krishna, the lack thereof. Let's talk about it, man. Like, I want to know what's helping people to maintain their mental awareness and their spiritual awareness, to be happy, to be healthy, to be content in their own bodies, to feel comfortable in their own bodies, to not feel like a foreigner, to not feel like an alien to this world, to find their place and fit in. Because a lot of those kind of things come early on. It's only me. I'm the only one that's going through this. Nobody understands. But we take that away really early on. When we share these stories, when we have people like Dave on, we have people like Chris on here to kind of just be open and honest and unapologetic about their life. And I, just really could care less about what any naysayer, has to say about what is truth and what is real. Listen, you've never journeyed through their mind, the depths of hell, if you will, for an individual who has seen things that you've never seen. experience things that you've never seen. What is the darkest hell you've been to? Is it the bottom of a bottle? Is it alcoholism? Is it drug addiction? Is it prostitution? There's people that's been deeper and darker, and they made it out. They lived to tell their story. And I think we need to listen. I think we need to listen to what's working for them, what's helping them to be a good father, what's helping them to be a good employee, a good friend, a good father. And take some notes, because people are out here struggling. Mental health is definitely at the top of my list, and to be open about that, not hide it, about what works for me. It's gotten a lot better over the years, but there was some weird stuff that I had to go through. There was some weird stuff that I made it back to tell a story, and now I have a podcast, and now I have a beautiful family, and now I love my life, and not everybody makes it out. People die in it, man. People seeking for truth, seeking for validation, seeking for love, seeking to be understood. And that's where the church should come in, but we know that that's not happening. So they go to the internet, they go to Google, they go to the search engines, and they find the TruthSeekah podcast. They find Gaia. They find fill in the blank, Michael Tessarian, Jordan Maxwell, David Voelker. They find seekers. They find people who are open and honest about their situation, about their story. And by simply doing that, they're helping others. And that's powerful. To be open and to be honest and to be authentic goes a lot further than we think. Not than you think, than I think. And I hear that almost as a cliche of you're not alone, man. You're not alone. But I really read these messages, and to see the power that you're not alone has. Listen, man, you're not alone. There's other people. Find the others. Find the others. They're out there. A lot of them are listening to this podcast or similar podcasts. I'll say that. And we can help each other. And be the version of you that you needed. Be a version of you today that you needed when you were lost, when you were looking for answers. And that's all I'm doing. I'm looking into this camera and I'm speaking to the young truth seeker. Listen, man, you're not alone, bro. You're going to be all right. You're going to make it. Listen, keep it up, man. There's great things ahead. Speaking to the younger version of myself that needed someone to talk to, that needed to know that he wasn't alone. I was a lonely kid. Even though I had friends, I was alone. Man, many of you feel that way. Whether you felt that way or you still feel that way, you're not alone. It's powerful, simple. It should be. It's not deep. We can get deep. Love to get deep. Real deep. Talk about all kinds of things. We talked about a lot of deep stuff on this episode. Opened up and admitted a lot of things and explored a lot of things. But listen, you got to be willing to go where no man has gone. And that's one thing you will not find in religion. But you will find in honesty and people who are open. People who are seeking for healing, who champion healing, willing to make a mockery or a ridicule of themselves. Don't got to be a know-it-all. Listen, I'm just a seeker. I found some things. I'm freely going to share it. There's some deeper things. You got to hit me up for that. But we talk about a lot of them on here. So, man, shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm sitting here reading the chat. Shout out to everybody in the live stream listening to us. No matter where you are, I love each and every one of you guys. It's amazing that that you guys resonate with this work, and it's simply being open and honest. It really is. Not hiding anything, willing to talk about any and everything that resonates, whether it be comedic relief, whether it be something really deep, explaining the deep mysteries of life and spirituality, making them real practical. taking the really practical things and really simplicities of the gospel and beautiful, simple truths and making them sound really deep, which they are. It's something that I found this peace in, this water to swim and dance and to even paint, this kaleidoscope of beautiful colors that I call my music, that I call my books and my podcast and everything that I bring to the table, and anything that, you know, my community, even a beautiful eclectic bunch of misfits, if you will, much like where Jesus goes and he finds his disciples, and they were an eclectic bunch of misfits, rough around the edges, filthy language, cursing, drinking, like they were just rough around the edges, and he's seen potential in them, and I really see it in you. You know, no matter where you are, there's beauty in you, there's potential, and I see it, and I hope you see it as well. And so this podcast is going to make an attempt to call that beauty out of you. We have a community Discord chat, really cool. I'm always watching, and I know people use it more than I do, but I'm reading everything, even though I don't respond. Trust me, I read it. If you want to jump in voice chat, I'll jump in. If I see any of you guys in voice chat in my Discord channel, I'm jumping in. I'm going to say hello. So jump into voice chat. Step out of faith. Give it a try. I'll say hello. I'll hang out with you guys. And I'll do that quicker than I'll text. But man, shout out to everybody who is a part of our community. We have a beautiful, eclectic community. Prayer warriors, awesome men and women of God, people with strong anointings and callings who are trying to find their place in the world. And listen, they found it on Discord. They found a beautiful community that we've created here with the podcast, and they thrive in it. So if you're looking for community, join the Discord, join the Patreon, our Thursday night School of the Mystics. We're about to add a lot more. Like, my vision is a lot bigger than just those. And I'm trying to get other people in the game and try to find people who are committed. That's a big thing. Finding people who are committed, finding people who are going to show up, and to kind of delegate roles to them, whether it's doing the same thing just on a different night, to entrust to them to do those things, to lead a community. And I think I found some people who are up for it. I think some people who are going to be really good at it. So that's what the Mystic Circle is. I haven't talked a lot about it. I've mentioned it last year just a little bit, but we're starting to work on the website again and put some more content and really figure out how that thing is going to operate. I mean, I'm talking about webinars with big name people. We're talking about live streams and community streams every night of the week with different healers and teachers and people that I believe in. Mostly probably people you don't know, but they're people who are powerful, who go under the radar, and to try to give them some type of platform, to try to give them some type of grid where they can communicate and showcase their talents, because there's a lot of awesome people even within our community. I mean, this talk tonight, Dave doesn't even have a website. Like, we're trying to get Dave a website. Dave's got so much to bring to the table. I mean, you guys have heard it, and he's got so much more. We didn't even talk about like Dave's take on demons and disembodied spirits and being, influenced by the other realms. Dave's got some beautiful stuff that he's going to bring to the table. And I want you guys to hear him, because he's got so much to share and so much that will help you at least take another look at what you thought you knew. If that's all it is, listen, that'll help you so much. With that, I'm gonna say peace and shalom. Love each and every one of you. I see your comments. I see the beautiful blessings and everybody hanging out with us there in chat. I love you guys. Again, peace and shalom. Go check out the website now. Listen, my buddy Richie, the Imaginaut, has a bunch of stuff up right now. There's like 6 really cool breathwork exercises and body work exercises just to touch the meridians, to take a breath and to feel alive. It's really good. TheMysticCircle.net. Also go to TruthSeekah.com. We got a bunch of stuff that I'm working on as well with the Path of the Healer and the upcoming retreat that we have in May. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested. Send me a message. I'll try to answer all your questions. With that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. Love you guys. We'll do it again very soon. Peace, peace.
Your will so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine. Your so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.